Woe to you, O earth and sea.
It's the Hop Nation
USA Podcast.
It's episode 118 of the Hop Nation USA Podcast, and we're here live to laptop on location at Enix Brewing down in the heart of Homestead. I'm joined by my co-host Adam.
Absolutely.
And our guest co-host Dennis.
What up, bugaboos?
And we're also joined by Enix's brewer Paul.
And glad to have you.
Yeah. So we're, like I said, we're here down in the heart of Homestead, and we're going to spend a little time with Paul. We're going to learn some beers, and we're going to have him introduce the first beer of the evening.
So this beer here we have in front of us is the Club Lane's Kolsch. So a Kolsch is it's a German style. It's typically described as a hybrid beer because it lives somewhere in the world between an ale and a lager. It is very much a recipe similar to having a Pilsner or a light German lager, Pilsner malt, German hops. One of the biggest differences, though, is that instead of using lager yeast, which would ferment at a cooler temperature for a longer span of time, this uses this hybrid Kolsch yeast, which is a blend of the two, and allows us to turn the beer over a little bit quicker while still having these crisp German flavors. So this is easily the most popular beer we have in our arsenal. It's a beer that's just a beer for everyone and is named after the bowling alley upstairs, the Club Lane's bowling that's been around since about the 1940s.
And we will most certainly get into that conversation a little bit later.
Yes. I'm excited.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of numbers are we talking about here in terms of ABV, IBU, things like that?
This is about a 5.5% beer. So easily the kind of beer you can have more than one of. It's only about 30, 35 IBUs.
Okay.
So relatively smooth. You're going to get a little bit of bitterness and you're a little bit of hop finish, but it's not going to be distracting. It's going to be smooth.
Okay.
It should be very quenchable on a hot summer day.
Sounds like a good Sunday drinker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It is Adam approved.
Well, it's not Sunday. It's recorded on a special secret day. But if you're listening on a Friday, as you should. Yeah, looking at this beer, though, it's got a nice color to it. Mm-hmm. It's got a nice effervescence. Mm-hmm. We didn't explain the process to Paul, but, before every drink, we, try to remark on it, give it, what it looks like, what it smells like, and then we taste it.
We try to paint a picture, because obviously we can't.
Right.
We are not a visual program.
Can't show pictures.
This beer is a mystery to some beer drinkers because what the color you're seeing here is clear. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is where you can actually look through the beer and see what is on the other side. It's
right.
It's a twilight.
It's a particular style of beer that I like is clear beer, but this is a wonderful example of a nice, good, clean looking beer that. There's nothing for any flaws to hide behind.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. The way this beer looks is what we would refer to as a VFW beer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It looks like a beer you would see at the bar at a VFW.
Yeah.
This is
where they look at it and go, looks like a beer.
Looks like a beer.
Tastes like a beer.
Tastes like a beer. It's,
I don't know why they all sound grizzled to me.
You're welcome.
The one thing, though, that as we find these beers that look like VFW beers, they always stand apart in smell and taste. And I can tell you on the smell, it's not a VFW beer.
No, it is not.
Oh.
It's very fresh.
Yeah,
it is.
It separates itself very quickly from that category.
Yeah. It's very fresh, but I can tell it resides in that lager pilsner kind of world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not crazy go nuts.
Smells delicious.
So it only took us about 3.5 to 4 minutes for us to get to the beer, and I know that for Dennis, that was 3.5 to 4 minutes too long.
It was way too long. I think I was over here like Tyrone Bigham scratching my neck. You got those hops?
You got any more of those Kolsches?
We had to tell him to sit on his hands for the first part of the show.
Wait for the intro. I'll tell you what, though, that beer is really clean drinking. Mm-hmm.
but without it's not lacking flavor either.
No. I can see why you said this is the most popular beer you have.
Yeah, this is the one beer that we pretty much have to have. It's either being brewed, it's being conditioned, it's on tap. This beer is kind of we say the beer that keeps the lights on kind of beer.
It's that staple beer.
Yeah, and I think every brewery pretty much has a beer like that. I think certainly being in Homestead and are associated with the bowling alley, it lends itself perfectly to just that clientele and that kind of mindset. This is the beer upstairs. You can get this beer by the pitcher.
Wow.
Which is, getting craft beer
What
by a
about
pitcher.
downstairs? You can go upstairs.
You can go upstairs.
I can tell that Adam's liking this beer.
How do you figure?
Just because I know.
Because I'm not complaining about it.
Right. You're not complaining about it. You're not complaining about any hop bitterness or anything like that. This is right down your alley. This is a style.
No pun intended, I'm sure.
For me, it's interesting, though, because I think I might be just drinking bad Kolsch's all my life.
There's a good possibility of that.
Because I've never really liked Kolsch's, but I really like this.
Well, like I said, it's you've got nothing to hide behind. There's no flavors that are strong. There's no chocolate flavors. There's no hop flavors. There's nothing that's going to mask anything, any kind of high sulfur content or buttery flavors or penny blood flavors you might get from improperly fermented beers. This, if you brew a Kolsch properly, this is what you'd expect to drink in Cologne. This is something that, the idea behind the kind of beer you can just sit and drink one after another, and you're not dissecting it. You're not sitting there necessarily and thinking about this in terms of, how does this beer wow me? Is this something to write home about? That kind of mindset. This is it's a beer to enjoy as a beer, and we like that here at Enix. We like beer that just we give you a pint of it and just to hear it, enjoy it.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to sit down, shut up, and have a beer.
Yeah. That's right. I can definitely see why this is also on pitcher, though.
Oh, absolutely.
We could all agree to enjoy a pitcher of this,
right? We each get our own pitcher, of course.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean,
just want to make that clear.
A pitcher? And an Uber ride home.
Yeah. An Uber ride. Yes. And thankfully, Homestead is close enough to Uber.
Yes.
You can easily get one. But yeah, so we're just going to move on, and we're going to start learning a little bit more about Enix, all the beers that they have, a little bit of the history. I know we're coming up on the first year anniversary.
Yep. We opened right around the end of August. We started doing soft openings, and then around the first week of September is when we really officially had our grand opening. But it's been an interesting year. We've seen a lot happen here. We've been producing about 20 different brands that we keep on, about 8 or 9 at a time. I've got to pour at several festivals. Last week, we won a Bloody Mary contest at Voodoo, which was a whole lot of fun because even beyond the beer, we have a wonderful cocktail and wine program. And we make homemade sodas here that we use for our cocktails. Our food is pretty much prepared almost 100% in-house. We have an amazing kitchen staff that works tirelessly almost every single day, and we are getting known for our pizzas.
Right on.
I can say that about a year ago, we were going through a wonderful time when our new pastry chef was just making pizza after pizza after pizza just to get the recipe right. I kind of didn't want to open because it was just so great.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, we realized, okay, and then even then, once we felt like we had nailed it, we still continued to figure out how can we make this taste better. And I think that's something that people have seen in our food is that you're not going to. You're getting every dime's worth of money out of the food that we serve here, and it pairs perfectly with the beer, and there's just a nice ambiance to sit in and enjoy it.
So is there a signature pie that you guys have? Is there one that you see where, in terms of sales, this one is the most popular? Or anything
I would
like
say
that?
the ones I see the most popular are roasted vegetable.
Yes, just ate
pizza is wonderful. I mean, for vegetarians, for anyone, it's a wonderful pizza. They roast the vegetable. I mean, I love the smell in the morning when I come out of the brewery and they're roasting the vegetables, and then they make the dough fresh every day. That one is really popular. If you come on brunch, we have a brisket pizza that is absolutely to die for.
My goodness.
That is a wonderful brunch option that's available on Saturdays and Sundays.
That sounds really good.
That was really, really good.
Can you get the pizzas in the bowling alley?
You can get the pizzas in the bowling alley. Absolutely, we will bring the pizzas up for you.
Good. So you don't have to come
You
downstairs
don't
to
have to
go
come
upstairs.
down. We will. Yes. You can have your pitcher of beer. We'll bring you pizza and your bowl.
That's my workout plan. I'll keep walking up and down those stairs and eat veggie pizza. That's it.
That's your guy.
How else do you get
Take the
vegetables?
stairs and eat your veggie pizza.
Dude, that's good to me.
Look, he's trying.
That's true. It's just more than one I can say right now.
To be fair, I got this shirt like 12 years ago, and it still fits.
Hey, you know what? I
Yeah,
can't.
a little snug. It's a little
all right.
snug.
He's referring to his army shirt, of course,
Yeah. I wear it with pride.
for the non-visual. Yes.
It is skin tight.
But yes, your army shirt still fits you. With the beer that we're having, like, obviously this one's a real staple. It's very clean. It's very easy drinking. Anybody can enjoy this one. What beers do you have that, like, are a little more experimental, a little more out there? Something that you, like, you want to draw, I don't know, the adventurous in?
I'd say, we try to push the limits a little bit on our hoppy beers, just to have a variety of hoppy beers where you're going to have different flavors. You're going to have different malt backbones. You're going to have different a different way to approach each hoppy beer. I think that's unique. Where sometimes you go into a lot of breweries and they have the same base beer and then they just change the hops around. We changed the base beer around too, and we've done some as ales, we've done some as lagers. We've started to experiment a little bit more with that. Our most popular beer that falls into our seasonal category is our Dad's Hat Rye Whiskey Barrel Aged Imperial Stout.
Okay, all right.
See, that's what I'm looking for.
yeah.
That's what
Steve's like, yes.
this is what I'm prodding for. I want to know the seasonals. I want to know the
We will. That beer originally came out back in December. Went over very well at the time. We had a barrel aged variant. At the time, we really didn't know. We just were kind of playing around with it. We did a small amount last year. We doubled that amount for this year.
Awesome.
So it'll come out towards the end of this year. We've made the beers. The beers are aging. Everything is going, but we won't release it until we feel it's ready and it tastes the way we want it to taste.
Well, when you guys are ready, let us know.
Yeah.
Or even when you're not ready, you just want to taste it.
I am too old for birthday parties, but in December, bowling and rye whiskey imperial stouts.
Oh man, that's
It'll
like
be-
Yeah, and pizza.
It's possible.
Right.
It's possible.
and walk up and down them stairs.
Yeah.
Hey,
No,
Steve's
it's his
like,
birthday.
"Nope.
Yeah,
Carry me, minions.
that's right. Slide me, whatever it is.
Have one of those chairs that just ride the railing
Yeah.
down. Steve just sits in it,
Give me the gremlin lift.
goes up.
Awesome. So again, back to your first year anniversary, though. Like, is there anything that Enix is planning to celebrate your birthday?
We have a special beer that'll be coming out. It is a Cabernet barrel-aged Beer de Garde.
Ooh.
Beer de Garde is a style that's somewhere between maybe an amber ale and a saison. It's a Belgian style, kind of a French Belgian style. Beer de Garde literally means beer for aging. So it's a beer that once we brewed this back in, I want to say March, and it's been sitting in the barrels since then. We will be pulling those out of the barrels this week, and there will be, not only will that be on draft, but there will be bottles available, and that will be our effectively our anniversary beer that'll be coming
Making
out.
me salivate.
Yeah. And then we got to put something more in those barrels again. So, yeah.
Listening to Paul talk about beer is like watching the Food Network at 3 a.m. I just want more.
I go down those rabbit holes on the YouTube.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
so many
Korean street foods.
Yeah, there's so much good cooking on the YouTube anymore. Awesome. Well, the other event that's coming up that we wanted to talk about is Freshfest. And if you continue listening to the end of the segment, you'll have your chance to win a Freshfest ticket.
Smooth. I like that.
Smooth. But I just wanted to talk to you guys about your involvement in Freshfest, because this is obviously you weren't completely open last year and you weren't able to participate, but now this year you're collaborating.
Yes.
So tell us more about who you're collaborating with, and what you're excited with as far as the event goes and things like that.
Yeah, we were actually just really close to opening last year, and myself and David Rodriguez, the owner and head brewer, were lucky enough to go and enjoy ourselves. And I think we both kind of looked around this festival last year and said, "Wow, this is a great festival. This is a great beer festival." And so we knew when this year came around, we had to be involved. Enix had to be involved. We have been teamed up with Dreamz Hair Salon, which is down the street, right by the Grays Bridge. Okay. And we worked with Tennille, the owner, and her vision was for a beer that's slightly sweet, kind of spicy, and featured peaches. So the inevitable, the inevitable answer to that was, well, let's do a Belgian Tripel and load it up with peaches. So that is exactly what we did. We brewed this a few weeks ago. We had the team come out, and they helped us out from Dreamz come out, and they assisted in the brew. We brewed a very traditional Belgian Tripel with Pilsner malt, a lot of sugar, and then a traditional Belgian yeast. And then right about when fermentation was just about complete, we added about 35 pounds of fresh peaches. And let that reinvigorate the fermentation just a little bit, just to incorporate that flavor in. And then now it has been sitting on those peaches for about another week, and we'll be packaging that beer at the beginning of this week to be on tap at Freshfest.
So is that a Freshfest exclusive, or would that be available here at the brewery?
It will be available as of August 10th once Freshfest has happened.
But that'll be the first opportunity to have it is at Freshfest.
As far as I know, that is what our plan is right now. Yeah,
exclusive.
Yeah, as many of the wonderful beers there are going to be is to go. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, if you're not going to be at Freshfest, you're missing out.
What are you doing?
There's going to be some great beers there.
Great people, great beers.
Yeah.
Super excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're somehow not in the know about Freshfest, it's
that's on you.
Yeah, that's on you.
Yeah,
you need to move because you live under a rock. Get out from under that rock. Get the interwebs.
Yeah. But yeah, every beer is a collaboration beer. It gives a chance for breweries in the area to show off what they can do, and it also allows black-owned businesses to get their word out and just be a part of the community. And that's what it really all is just communities supporting communities. As Paul said, Dreamz is just right down the road from here. So it's this neighborhood competing against other neighborhoods, really.
Yeah, and showing what you can do working together. So it's not, a subset of folks in the beer industry. It's showcasing the lack of diversity in the beer industry, but showing what we can do together to help build awareness around it.
Yes, it was wonderful to get to meet the people at Dreamz. This is a business that's been around 16 years.
Damn.
Right here in Homestead, and we've only been open a year, and we think, wow, what a crazy year it's been. And say, wow, you guys have been around 16 years. You guys are killing it. So they're wonderful group to work with, and the beer is going to be a wonderful representation of the work that we all put into it.
I'm excited for it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Can you just tell me about all beers? Just learn about them.
All beers forever.
Right before I go to sleep at night, Paul. Just tell me about the beer.
It's honestly a strong competition right now between Paul and Garrett Oliver.
Yeah.
Garrett Oliver is velvety smooth when he talks.
Man.
So to this point, being open for about a year, you guys have participated in Beer Fest before. So I wanted to know. I mean, obviously, Freshfest will be your favorite by the end of the year. But what's been your favorite so far?
I would say, we opened right before the first, right before Construction Junction happened, and so that was a big pour. Yeah, that was a fun one to kind of jump right into because that was my first beer fest in Pittsburgh in general, and for a lot of people it was the first time they had ever tasted our beers. We were so brand new. It was fun to be able to bring out really our flagship. In some ways, we brought out our flagships, but in other ways, we brought out the only beers we had. So it wasn't a. This year we have to sit around and actually think about what kind of beers we're going to bring. But this one will be last year was a lot of fun. I would say Beers of the Berg at Carey Furnace was a whole lot of fun. We were able to bring out one of our last remaining kegs of the barrel aged Ogro, and I've worked a lot of I've been in this business over a decade and worked a lot of beer festivals, and it was one of the first times ever where we literally had a line spanning almost the entire span of the indoor part of the festival, and waiting for the beer to tap, and we kicked the keg in about 30 minutes.
Wow.
That was a wonderful feeling to watch the
because that was a destination spot. They wanted to go to you guys to try that beer. That's cool.
that right away, and as soon as that happened, we looked at each other and said, "We got to order some more barrels. This is we got to do something about this."
Speaking about barrels, I'm looking. We can look in on your brewing facility from the dining room.
Yeah,
and it's always a nice touch. At a brewery.
Yeah, I like that.
What is your capacity right now, though?
So this is a 15-barrel system, a barrel being 31 U.S. gallons. So every time we brew, it's just around 450, 460 gallons at a time. And we pretty much brew at least once a week. And basically try to sell the most of it in-house. So we're doing some limited distribution to some bars and restaurants around the city. But then between really the downstairs dining room, the bowling alley upstairs, which has 4 taps, we do a little bit of canning on the side. Pretty much all of it gets sold in-house. Short of us really opening up our distribution chains, that would be our biggest reason for growth and to be producing more and get some more tanks.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about cans, but
right. And we have a when I say small canner, that is an understatement. We do one can at a time.
That's as small as you can get.
It's as small as you can get.
You ain't doing half cans.
Yeah. So there are some days I have a nice little setup down in the basement, and we'll just sit there and can off beer one at a time.
Just grind them
and
out.
then you hand label
them out. But it gives us the ability to do quick releases. It gives us the ability to release cans the same day a beer goes on tap, which is a luxury that a lot of people don't always have.
Right.
If you're producing batches specifically all for canning, all to go out for distribution, versus if you're gonna put a beer on tap and then hopefully can it when the next canning run would come around, we can set up the system very quickly, can off a keg or two, and within the same day have cans on the shelf. And, that's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to this Kolsch.
Okay.
We're all empty. I mean, we're all empty, so it seems like a good time to come back to it.
Empty glass Kolsch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that says it all right there.
Yeah.
Adam, why don't you give your final thoughts first?
So I like this beer for multiple reasons, all of which have been discussed here, except for one. There is a good twist of maltiness on this as well. I don't think we've talked about that yet on this beer. It's got a maltiness to it that I haven't seen on other Kolsches before, which I like. For those that have never listened to the show before, I am not a hophead. I am much more of a malt guy. I like my stouts. I like my Hefeweizens. I like my sours, things like that. I don't lean into the hop side very much. But this one, it did have a hop, a sensibility to it. But it wasn't bad. It didn't get in the way, like you were saying, that it's not the... it's not the pinnacle of the beer. It's a supporting cast member.
Right.
And to me, that made for this to be a really good beer and a really widely acceptable beer because it'll appeal to almost everybody. It's got something for everybody, and that's what I like about this beer.
Same.
All right, then.
That was a really good impression of Sam when he, starts exalting IPAs. You got your chance to exalt a really good German beer.
That's right. And I got to use my hands.
Yeah.
Just throw them around all willy-nilly over there.
As long as I don't touch the mic.
Dennis, what were your thoughts?
I definitely really enjoyed it. Now, I am a big fan of Kolsch beers, and having this one, it actually made me realize that, like you said earlier, Steve, maybe I've just had lackluster Kolsches, and I love them as they were, but this definitely opened up to like a whole new gateway beer for me.
There you go.
Digging into it, so I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, up to this point, the only Kolsch I liked also had a bunch of coffee in it. So I don't know what the hell I've been drinking up to this point, but obviously those weren't right. this was really nice and easy drinking, and I would definitely share a pitcher with friends at a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Good.
Like, I'm not trying to blow any smoke.
Yeah, that's true.
Facts are facts.
Yeah, I feel like we've built up to the point that we're genuine enough that people
Right.
believe me that this is it. It's good.
Because a lot of other Kolsches are good, but this had like that extra pizzazz to it that just set it apart.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Big fan. Cool. Well, before we take our break, if you want to win a ticket to Freshfest on August 10th at Nova Place, I want you to email us the phrase peaches to hopnationusa@gmail.com. That's right, peaches, as in the triple that we were just talking about. To hopnationusa@gmail.com, and we'll randomly draw a winner. And
Okay.
and the winner gets to go to Freshfest.
Yeah, unfortunately, I believe Dennis and I are exempt from that.
Yes, you and Dennis are exempt. I'm exempt.
true.
Paul's exempt. Paul's already going.
I think we'll all be there, so it doesn't matter.
We be there. So
The code is Peaches, just
Yeah.
like Steve's stage name. Peaches.
Well, on that note, it's time for me to step away from the table.
it's time for me to fuck the pain away. That's a good joke. Some people get that. We'll be back. Segment 2.
First Sip Brew Box is a one-of-a-kind subscription service for craft beer lovers based right here in Pittsburgh. Every month, First Sip will send you a box full of craft beer enthusiast essentials, including t-shirts, glassware, and even food. Right now, our friends at First Sip Brew Box have an offer for you. Just sign up for a 3-month subscription and get your 4th month free. Just enter the code HOPUSA when you sign up at firstsipbrewbox.com. That's HOPUSA at checkout to get your 4th month free at firstsipbrewbox.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 118 of the Hop Nation USA podcast. We're still here down at Enix Brewing, and we're here with the brewer, Paul. That means it's time for a second beer, to which Paul will introduce.
So this is the MadRed Red IPA. This is going to taste very different from the Kolsch. I wish I could take credit for this recipe. I cannot. This is Dave's recipe, tried and true from his brewery in Madrid, Mad Brewing. And the idea behind this beer is that this is like an old school IPA. The first time I had this beer when I started working here, it reminded me of things like Founder's Red's Rye, of kind of old school Dogfish Head beers. Back in the day. When I say back in the day of craft beer, we're talking like the olden days of the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. But there weren't a lot of hop varieties. You pretty much had predominantly the American C hops. You had Columbus and Centennial and Cascade and Chinook, and they tend to be more on the piney side, more on the resiny side. They definitely have those grapefruit, citrusy notes, but this was not the level of fruit that we expect from IPAs of today by any stretch, and they typically were more bitter as well. And to combat the bitterness, you had to have a much stronger malt backbone in the beer, so that sweetness from the malt would balance out the bitterness of the hops. So this beer features your Columbus, your Centennial, your Cascade, your Chinook, and this beer reminds me of what made me love craft beer and what made me really understand this is the difference between this kind of beer and what I had been drinking in college and what I had been used to as far as what I had been given all my life and said, okay, this is beer. This was these kinds of maltier, more resinous, more piney IPAs. I think if you really like IPAs, if you really say that you're a beer drinker, this is a beer that's going to speak to you.
It sounds great to us. He looks like he's watching a horror show.
This is not going to taste anything like your hazy IPA. It's not going to taste anything like your session low bitter IPAs. This is a beer that we might have said once upon a time puts hair in your chest.
Yeah, this is a no juice IPA.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's resiny, it's bitter, it's malty, but to me, this is everything I love about the styles of beer that were the rejection of the macro styles that were created for decades after World War II. And this kind of harkens back to the original beers that separated the craft beer movement.
Right on. Could you just give us quick numbers like ABV and IBU? I mean,
this beer it sits right at 7.2%, so it's a hearty beer and much closer to about 60 IBUs. So, but again, balanced. So it's it's bitter, but you're not going to have that. You're not going to be left with that rubbery, resinous, taste
It's
in your
not
mouth.
over the top.
Right. It's going to be balanced with the sweeter malt. Yeah.
Brewed with Adam in mind.
And that beautiful color you're seeing there, that comes from the Red X malt, which was a new discovery for me when I came into this brewery. That's something that Dave had used in Europe and brought that recipe over here.
Right on. Yeah, I was going to ask, you were mentioning how, for those who don't know, the story goes, two brothers actually own Enix, Victor and David was a brewer in Spain who started the Mad Brewing Company. And I was wondering, when he imported this recipe over, was there other things that had to be imported over?
I know that this would have been come around probably around 2010, 2011 would have been when this recipe was kind of having its full impact there.
Right.
At the time, from what I understand about the European beer market and the Spanish beer market, is that American beers were available. I think you would have seen a lot of Sierra Nevada at the time. You would have seen a lot of Stone, those kinds of brands, Bell's, I'm sure. But for the most part, people were still drinking predominantly German styles and drinking more of the traditional lagers. So this would have been an experimental beer for sure. And getting the hops was not the hardest part. From what I understand, one of the hardest ingredients to transfer to Europe was yeast. And it's where Dave really began a relationship with White Labs, the White Labs company.
Right on.
Because they were keen to start sending their products to Europe. And they had to really think about how do we quickly, safely, send, yeast is a live thing. It's a culture that temperature is an extraordinarily important part of its life cycle, and whether you have extremes of cold, extremes of heat, can affect that yeast. So they had to, develop methods for sending it, and he had to be ready to accept the order as soon as it got there. And he was, from what I understand, Mad Brewing was one of the first breweries in Europe to regularly be bringing in American yeast. Now it's a very common practice. Yeah. But at a time when craft beer in general was still being introduced and considered, Mad Brewing was definitely at the forefront of that.
Oh, wow.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Now I'm super pumped up into this beer.
Yeah, as Paul mentioned, it does have a nice deep copper color. It looks really nice.
It's a good-looking unit.
Yeah. On the nose, you get a little bit of that hoppiness, but I can also smell some malt on it as well.
A little malt, a little sweetness.
Yeah, a little bit of toasted malt, a little bit of caramel malt.
I was going to say,
you're going to get some Munich in there, a little bit of medium caramel malt. The Red X really is what's going to drive the flavor. So nothing quite as toasty as Maris Otter, but certainly a little more complex than your traditional pale malt.
This beer's talking dirty to me.
I kind of want to hear Adam's thoughts first.
You know what my first thought of this beer was? It kind of tastes like a Christmas beer.
You get a little spice in this maybe, Adam?
I did. I got some spice on this. To me, it felt like it was more spice than hop.
And I think you're going to get that mostly from the kind of the ruby red malts, your Red X, your darker crystals. You're going to get that stone fruit. You're going to get those a little bit of plum, a little bit of raisin, and that can come across as a little bit of spiciness. Yep,
and that's kind of it. Felt like it was a Christmas beer, but kind of pulled back a little bit, and that's how I'm finding this beer. If it was more of like an October, November beer.
It's like
right in the wheelhouse.
A little bit like a Christmas beer with cinnamon removed.
Yeah.
But I kind of get that as well. But it has that really has that deep malty, like caramelly flavor up front, and then the back end is where you get the hops out of it.
Yeah.
But like you said, it doesn't finish with that hard resinous flavor.
Right.
Thank God.
It does terminate pretty clean.
Yeah.
So Adam's obviously not complaining about that. But you can still get that hoppiness on the back end. It has a little bit of bitterness. It is, a little stronger, and it's definitely stronger than, all the soft baby kiss, hazy IPAs out there. But it has a little bit of strength to it, a little bit of kick.
Well, just like I said before about the Kolsch, I'm also a big fan of red IPAs. But again, This one's stepping itself apart from all the other ones I've had. It's smooth, and I see what you were saying. It's like a flashback to the late 90s, early 2000s of what IPAs were. It's like we went on a movement of no juice IPAs, no juice, and this would be the poster child of that movement. Yeah. You know, it's so balanced and tasty. I'm going to get back into it. Okay.
All right. Well, while Dennis gets back into that, we're going to get back into the show. This time, we want to focus a little more on Paul and your history. We did some talking in between segments, and we learned a good bit. So we're going to make you repeat yourself a lot,
word for word.
Yeah. But just kind of want to start at the beginning. You kind of mentioned that you've been brewing for over 10 years.
Yeah, I broke into the industry in 2009. I opened a homebrew supply store in Louisville, Kentucky called My Old Kentucky Homebrew. And I was I had the name for a while before the store. That was the easy part. At the time there were three breweries in the entire state of Kentucky. There were 2 in Louisville and 1 in Lexington. And they were not super happy with the idea of another brewery. They didn't really want competition. And on top of it, too, I simply didn't know enough to open a brewery. But I knew that I wanted to be a part of the industry and to find where I could be of value. And one thing my brother and I came to a quick realization of is we don't really have a store in Louisville where you can go and get anything you want to be able to make beer supplies. There was a wonderful store in Indianapolis. There was an excellent wine making supply store in Louisville, but not really on the beer side of things. And it was also on even though Louisville's not a really big city, we'd say it was on the other side of town. So I opened this store to just carry the basic supplies, and that quickly turned into I carry everything. And my 800 square foot store was certainly became too small very quickly, and we ended up going to a 3,000 square foot store a few years later. And it was a great time. We watched just so many people start into brewing. We watched our Kentucky State Fair go from 1 year going from having less than 100 entries to having over 700 the next year. That was a big eye-opening moment of, we need more judges. We need to train more judges. It was one of the longest judging days of my entire life. Someone once described it as, I've never seen so many people have so little fun drinking beer. We judged, we're talking dozens upon dozens of beers. In some ways, it was a lot of fun because it was quality control. I sat back and said, a lot of these beers were made from ingredients from my store. I get to actually see how the final result turns out.
Yeah, that's cool.
We watched the Homebrew Club absolutely just explode in numbers. And we started to see more brew-ins. We started to see more of the homebrew community being involved with the professional brewing community. And then the inevitable happened. We started to seeing more breweries open. And one by one, I started to see my best customers fall off because they were all opening breweries. Wow. Which is a wonderfully bittersweet feeling to watch someone, know that I gave them the intro to brewing class, a little free weekly class I ever did. And if, 2 or 3 years later, they're opening a full scale brewery. And I think maybe I got a little bit jealous. I think I started to feel like I wanted to be more involved in that world. And as the store, as sales started to fall, just as the homebrewing as a whole started to fall, I pivoted into full-time brewing. It was I'll tell you kind of a fun story. It was I was having we would usually have very big Christmases, very big sales, and Christmas was always a time when we could count on just making usually somewhere about 20% of our entire year in just a few weeks. And the last Christmas I was open, it just wasn't as busy as it had been. And we all kind of stood around and said, well, we don't, we're carrying everything. We're doing we're doing everything we've done all these years. And I was driving home, and in Kentucky, you could buy beer at a gas station. And I stopped at the local little gas station, and I said, I'm just going to grab a 6-pack of beer and go home and think about how I can do things better. And I'm standing at the gas station looking at this wall of beer, and suddenly I look at my watch and I realize I've been standing there for 20 minutes trying to figure out what beer I want. And it kind of dawned on me. I said, I'm trying to figure out what beer I want, and I'm in a gas station.
Yeah.
The industry has changed.
Right.
And, for a long time, the rallying cry had been, you can brew what you can't get. And that's when we would have people say, they want to brew a porter, they want to brew a stout, they want to just brew varieties that weren't totally readily available. And it suddenly became people wanted to brew very specific beers and brew very specific beers from very specific breweries. And suddenly this idea of you can't, and then on top of that, there was more beer available than there ever had been. And this is even going back 5-6 years from now.
Yeah.
And suddenly you realized there is no more issue of I can't get the beer I can get any beer I want, or I can at least get the style I want. And this necessity to make beer was starting to fade, and now it became, well, if you make beer, it's because you genuinely want to make beer.
Right.
It's like
enjoy
people
the process.
Yeah, it's like people who still develop film in a dark room.
Right.
You do it because you genuinely want to do it, and and unfortunately, as much as that, I think I will indulge that passion. I will support anyone who feels that way. I think that is a wonderful, wonderful hobby to have. To run a business against it and actually, be able to keep the lights on and pay your employees and do all the things you need to do to run it as a business. That certainly changed. And my former employee took it over and now owns Brewgrass Homebrew Supplies in Louisville, which is still open. Wonderful, wonderful store. But I pivoted into full-time brewing after that and worked for several breweries in Kentucky. And Pittsburgh had always been on my radar. And I decided at a certain point I was ready to move on to something bigger and better. And I've been in Pittsburgh a year now and have worked at Enix a year now.
Right on.
Yeah.
So awesome. just to jump back a little bit, what were some of the breweries that opened in Kentucky that you remember kind of seeding to the home brewers?
My favorite, there's a brewery called Apocalypse.
Okay.
And it's run by a wonderful person named Leah Denis. She was, I believe, she was not the first female brewmaster in Kentucky, but she's the first female brewmaster of the craft beer movement. Louisville actually has 3 female brewmasters, which I think is a wonderful thing to brag about. Leah was the president of the Homebrew Club when I started. She was a great brewer. She is a great brewer. She was one of the few people to really guide me along in the early days of the store and just gave wonderful advice. She would tell me things like, you'll always make a great beer. You just might not make the beer you think you're going to make. She was a wonderful beer judge, and, she would drink a beer and she'd always find something good to say about it. She'd say, if you made a pale ale and you turn this beer, she'd say, man, you made a great amber. It's not a pale ale, but you made a great amber. And she was always there to support and always there to give good advice. She makes some great. She really taught me a lot about how to brew with vegetables and herbs. She makes a phenomenal chili beer, green chili beer. She and I did my first professional collab together, which was a beer we brewed for when Arrested Development came back out.
Okay.
And we decided it'd be fun to make a beer that tasted like banana dipped in chocolate rolled in nuts.
Oh, nice.
And so we substituted.
Beer porn.
Yeah, we decided to do this with all natural flavoring. It also came up because as beer names get spread around, there was one other Apocalypse Brewing company in America, and her Apocalypse Brewing company accidentally got sent a box of Caco Nibs.
Oh,
and she talked with the other brewery, and they got back and forth. They said, it ended up being too much work to actually try to ship it. So they said, why don't you just hold on to it? We'll just work it out. And so we had this big box of Caco Nibs, and we said, well, let's brew this Hefeweizen. We used Maris Otter instead of pale malt to give it a little more of a nutty flavor. We used all the Caco Nibs, both in the boil and afterwards. And then we used the famous White Labs 300 yeast, which is kind of known for its banana esters, which you can really accentuate if you stress the yeast out by under pitching it, ferment it at a slightly warmer temperature, and actually, whether instead of having just a subtle banana flavor, actually have a banana flavor, which in a lot of cases is considered a flaw, but we were actually going for that flavor. Yeah. So when it was all said and done, Banana Stand came out, and it was the fastest selling beer they've ever had at that point.
There's always money in the banana.
Yeah,
True.
we released it right before the series released on Netflix, and it was a beer. Watching people be able to come up and ordering the beer I'd helped make and helped develop the recipe for, that was a pivotal moment, because you start watching someone appreciate something you've made. It's a really wonderful, wonderful feeling. And then having people tell you, they love it. It's just, if you're a brewer, the next inevitable feeling you have is, well, what do I make next? What's the next beer?
Yeah.
And that got me on that path.
When you made your way to Pittsburgh, obviously you started working with Enix, and we were talking about how David is, kind of the head grandmaster brewer of Enix. What was the first beer that you really got to put your input on and put a recipe into?
The first beer that I got to have a real influence on was our Munich Dunkel, which is called Nachbar. And I always call this style of beer a casserole beer. And the idea behind it is that you kind of look around to see what do you have. Well, we got a sack of this. We have a sack of brown ale. We have a sack of chocolate. We have a sack of Cara Brown.
A mutt.
And we had some lager yeast. We had, lager yeast or yeast in general is one of the most expensive ingredients a brewery has to deal with. And you want to get multiple uses out of it to justify purchasing it.
Yeah.
And so we figured we wanted to use this yeast one more time. And, we kind of looked around and said, hey, we've got enough to... I don't think we can make a full 15-barrel batch. I think it was a 10-barrel batch was the first batch. But we said, we got enough to do a Dunkel. That's a style we all like. And so we brewed that. And it happened to debut on the same day there was the terrible shooting in Squirrel Hill at the synagogue. And we decided, well, let's use the power, the goodness of this beer to do something good with. And we said we did a benefit, and in looking up names for the beer, I wanted something that incorporated neighborhoods and community and working together. And we discovered that the German word for neighborhood was Nachbar, and that had a special meaning to me because the street I grew up in, Louisville, there was a bar down the street called Nachbar, and had been there for years. And I kind of it was just my neighborhood bar, and they were kind of an early craft beer enthusiast bar, but they always featured a lot of dark beers and heavier beers. And I always just assumed Nachbar meant night bar or dark bar. I just never really thought about it too much. And when I came to realize this, we said, wow, that is, everything just came together wonderfully on this. And we were able to use the beer for a good purpose and raise some money. Awesome. And it has now become one of our more popular beers as well. So Nachbar is a beer I'm quite proud of. I think German lagers are just they're a wonderful style that doesn't get as much love as they should. They're not as fancy as IPAs. They're not going to you're never going to find a German lager that tastes like Oreos. No one's going to line up down the street for a German lager.
Right.
But if it's brewed well, it's a beer that makes that it's clean and it goes good with food. It's refreshing. We have three lagers on right now. We have the Nachbar, we have the Levine lager, which is a Vienna style lager, Oktoberfest style lager that's named after the hardware store that this building once was the former tenants. And we currently have Xanabrew on, which is a hoppy lager, which is our non-bitter, not quite an IPA hoppy option that features Comet hops, which is a hop that if you're familiar with Citra, very similar to Citra, super refreshing, and because it's a lager, just really clean finish. Really the kind of beer that you can just like, you almost can drink it like a bottle of water. It's just so quenchable.
Wow.
Even at 6%, great beer to have on. So I'm a huge fan of doing lagers, and getting to do Nachbar was a real pleasure.
Sounds delicious.
So is there any recipe or any style that you haven't been able to tackle yet that you want to get into?
We were saying the other day, we thought if we really want to tap into the trendy market, is I think our next beer is going to be a hazy pumpkin glitter beer. And we're just
Wait, is any of that sarcasm?
We're just gonna call it. Are you happy now?
Are you not entertained?
I don't know. It's fun. We get to do a lot of experimenting here. The Imperial Stout was a fun beer to play with. I know we have some plans to do some more Belgian styles coming up. And being from Kentucky, I'm a fan of anything barrel aged.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to be pushing much more with our barrel program,
And we will certainly support that. No doubt about that.
Apparently, from your huge basement, you got plenty of space for that too.
yes,
You saw people would come out of the woodwork.
just gotta get the barrels
unintended,
down
for
there.
some barrel aged.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I'm hearing a lot of good things, and I think I might have to start coming down here more often, making the drive. It's not a 2-tunnel trip, so it's still it's a 1-tunnel.
I promise we have the best parking of any brewery in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yes,
we have
you do.
We have multiple lots that surround the brewery. They are free after 4 o'clock, free on the weekends.
See, I didn't need a quarter.
Yeah, it's, I know it's parking is when you start to own businesses and get more into that world, you realize how important something like parking is.
Yeah.
The one thing you will never have to worry about at Enix is, will I find a parking space?
Nice.
Well, that and going hungry.
you have choices,
You guys
yeah.
got tons of food.
And you won't. Yeah, you certainly won't leave hungry. It's
That charcuterie board.
the charcuterie board.
He called me over when someone ordered it. I ran over from the little booth we had set up. I was like, I was just drenched in saliva.
If you think you even can think about what our charcuterie board looks like, it is,
so
and it
good.
changes weekly and features a lot of Spanish style meats and cheeses and accompaniments. It's worth every dollar.
Oh man,
I have ordered it for myself and regretted it. It's a 2-person board, which take that as a challenge.
oh no, challenge accepted. I'm gonna go out there, work for tips, and come back and get a charcuterie board.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so far everything we've learned about Enix is they have great food, they have good beer through 2. So, I can't imagine they're going to biff it on the 3rd.
Right.
And bowling.
Yeah.
And that's
you
really
can't beat it.
important.
And live music on the weekends.
Oh, really?
Yes,
And parking.
if weather appropriate, which in Pittsburgh, can vary. We do have a wonderful outdoor patio with a stage, and we basically have bands booked on Fridays and Saturdays for pretty much the rest of the year. So, or at least through the warmer months.
Yeah.
Check out Facebook. We update that constantly, and we have. You can sit outside and enjoy beer and eat some pizza and listen to live music.
Get your summertime drinking in.
So speaking of, I was looking at upcoming events and things like that. Did I see something about a cigar club that meets
Oh
here?
yeah,
It's become very popular on Wednesday nights. It's not every Wednesday. I know there's one coming up on this Wednesday. Our owners are Dave and Victor are huge cigar enthusiasts.
Okay.
And they have wonderful connections with some cigar tobacconists, I believe is the proper term, tobacconists around town.
Okay, sure.
And,
I ain't correcting you.
they really I've watched these guys. They are serious. They sit there and they treat cigars the way a lot of people treat beer. They are dissecting them and talking about them and talking about how they roll, what's goes in, and then how they pair with the beer.
I'm very curious how that would go about, how you would pair a cigar with beer. I'm curious what the process is
It has
with
to be
that.
some robust.
I would say,
full flavor,
the best
for
thing
sure.
I could say is to come out and hang out with these guys. And
So that's tomorrow.
there's one. There will be one on this Wednesday. But I would say look at our calendar on Facebook to get a.
Okay.
But they're certainly going to be happening through the rest of the year.
Right on.
Yeah.
It's not tomorrow, Dennis, because
know.
the show comes out on Friday.
Yeah.
Because we are recording on a mystery day.
Oh, that was a clue.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds cool. I would like to try that. I mean,
Yeah.
most of my cigar smoking has been Black and Milds and
On a
White
golf
Owls.
course.
On a golf course.
Steve,
I've had it. I've had an occasional acid.
we should practice
should-
one time before
yeah,
we
I
go
should
out.
practice.
Like, I have a humidor at home.
Oh, good Lord.
We'll get together for a couple sticks and then we'll show up.
All right. Well, Dennis and I will go practice our smoking bats, and then we'll see who will come down here eventually. In the meantime, let's come back to this MadRed IPA. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I don't think I need to say it because I've been on this whole big throwback kick. If you've been listening to the past probably 3 months.
Yeah, you've been pounding that drum an awful lot lately.
Yeah, because I'm tired of them.
I'm just tired.
I want my bitterness back.
I want my bitterness.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm glad you picked up on that's what I wanted
You're
to
welcome.
do. But yes, I want my bitterness back. I want my big flavors back. I'm tired of things tasting like orange juice. I want real IPAs. I've been banging this drum since I had that Fulton 300.
That is true.
And that just kicked me right back to my, like, oh, this is what...
It, like, shocked the system.
Yeah, this is what things are supposed to be. But, yeah, this MadRed is right up there. It's got that nice... it's balanced in the sense that nothing pulls away too far, nothing is too harsh, but it really does have an evolution in tasting when it goes from, the upfront toasty malts to that nice, classic bitterness. I mean, it's classic bitterness because it's made with the classic hops that you found, back in the day.
Yes.
They're still around, but they're also back in the day.
So for me, I keep going back to what I said at the beginning of the segment where it kind of has that kind of Christmas beer feel to it, where it has that spiciness to it. But it's not a full Mad Elf or anything like that.
No, and I left out there is some a small percentage of rye in it as well.
Okay,
which I wonder if that the spiciness of the rye certainly does come through.
Yeah.
So if you were a fan of Founders Red's rye, which I'm not even sure you can get it anymore, I used to buy that by the 6-pack quite often. If you're a fan of that particular beer, that was a very popular Founders beer, this is gonna be right up your alley.
Yeah, this is definitely not a beer where when you see IPA, it's not going to punch you in your face with the hops. But for me and my sensibilities, that's a good thing. Yeah. I dig it.
Well, with my opinion, like I said earlier, I am a big fan of red IPAs. But this one, like the Kolsch earlier, was just a step above what I typically have. I'm starting to realize how underrated you guys are. Like, seriously, it's a very well done beer. The caramel malts come out. It's a little sweet malty up front, but then that old school flashback of bitterness from the hops just come through in the end. But like Steve said earlier, it terminates pretty quickly. It doesn't just hang around. So folks that like a wide variety of styles, they're not going to wreck their palate. And I can see where that would go together with a lot of really good meals that you guys have here.
Yeah, and I think people are, we've been open a year now. People are figuring it out. It used to be back in the day a brewery would open and, everything's shut down. The world stopped.
Right.
A brewery opened.
Like in Bellevue. Lincoln Avenue open.
I wish, I yearn for the days of 2005.
Right.
When that was the case so much. But, I think people are looking for something different, and one thing Enix does provide is it's a nice environment to come and sit and have a meal and enjoy some beer. And it's this isn't you're not going to necessarily have some of the tropes you see at breweries. Now I don't want to bash anyone. I think every brewery has its wonderful characteristics, but this is not a place where. Or it's a place where you can have a nice calm dinner.
Right.
It's not necessarily going to be loud and you're going to be able to talk to the person across the table and talk
no
about
dogs
the food and talk
running
about the
across
beer.
the table.
Yeah, we love dogs on the patio.
Yeah.
We love dogs on the patio.
No babies riding animals.
Yeah. We love babies on the patio. We love babies on the patio. On the patio is
No
great.
one puts baby on the patio.
I don't have kids. I can say that.
Right on. Well, I think it's time we take a break, and we'll come back with segment 3, and we're going to get more into that bowling bit because I have a bowling quiz.
Excellent.
Ooh, yeah.
So we'll be back with segment 3.
Hey everyone, my name is Drew, and I host a podcast called Dudes with Brews on a Porch, where we let the drinks flow and the conversations go. Each and every week, me and a friend of mine, we sit down, we try a different craft brew, usually from the state of Wisconsin, and we just sit down and have a conversation. We talk about all aspects of life. Once a month, we talk about paranormal stuff, and we always have a good time. You can find our show, Dudes with Brews on a Porch, on iTunes, Google Play, and anywhere else you find your podcasts. Grab a cold one and hang out with us each and every week right here on the porch.
Welcome back to to episode 118 of the Hop Nation USA podcast. We are continuing our journey through Enix Beers drinking. We're here, segment 3, still with Paul, who is going to introduce the third beer.
Yes, and we haven't chased him off yet.
No, not
He
yet.
hasn't left us at the brewery all by ourselves.
Locked in.
Which would be terrible, but there looks like there's semi-couches around here, so that's okay.
Yeah, there's couches and the taps are on, so
They have great food, Steve. We can go
Yeah.
figure this out.
yeah, they got a good kitchen, so I'll figure it out.
So really, Paul, you could just leave now and we'll figure it out. I'm just kidding.
Go home, tell no one.
Or just say that you left, and then you could just be here rambunctious with the rest of us.
Yeah. Whichever you want to choose to do. But first, please introduce our third beer of the evening.
So this is our collaboration beer for Freshfest. This is done with the Dreamz hair salon. The name of the beer is Dreamz Peche, and it means basically it's a play on the dreams of the name of the and peaches. So the idea behind the beer was that we wanted something slightly sweet. We wanted a nice sipping beer, not necessarily something you just drink down, and we wanted to feature peaches. So the style we went with was a Belgian Tripel, because we thought, well, that's it's on the sweeter side, but still will allow the flavor of the peaches to come through, and it's not going to taste like candy. And we brewed this a few weeks ago with the team from Dreamz, and then added in 35 pounds of peaches last week, and now it's sitting on the peaches. So what we have in front of us is. This is the beer that is about to go into the what we call the bright tank. So this has not been carbonated yet. This is the fermentation is done. The peaches have been added. We're trying to get the solids to fall out at this point. We're trying to go get have a nice clean looking beer. And right now you can see the peach flavor is coming through. And when the carbonation comes in, it'll be a little bit brighter. But I think it's fair to say all the flavors are present right now.
Oh, no.
I'm
excited.
Most importantly, it's a Hop Nation exclusive.
Exclusive.
Yeah, I have not
And then
even
there's like
tasted this beer.
lasers in there and stuff. You'll hear the lasers later.
How about sharks? Shark
Well,
food.
the other
Yeah,
thing,
no, it could be anything.
yeah, the other thing was when Paul said the team from Dreamz, I immediately went to the Dream Team,
1992?
and I immediately thought of Patrick Ewing as a hairstylist. That made me happy on the inside.
Okay. So I got one question before we really get into it. So this is supposed to be a Belgian triple. Did you start with a Belgian triple base and then add the peaches?
Yes. So
Okay.
the
So
recipe is it's Pilsen malt.
Okay.
And then we added I believe 50 pounds of just white table sugar, which is a typical method used in this for triples, where we want to up the alcohol content, but we don't want to add anything that's going to add body or sweetness.
Right.
So the
Right.
table sugar allows us to basically spike the alcohol, and actually ends up ultimately on the back end drying out the finish without adding to any kind of fusel heavy alcohol flavors.
And that's probably because that just all gets eaten up. Like, that's all.
the sugar. Yeah, the yeast just goes right to town on that sugar. Yeah.
So has the Belgian Triple, the base recipe, has that been on tap here before, or is this an all new?
It has not been anything on tap here, but certainly for Dave and I, this is a very traditional recipe. So this is very much a if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of
Right.
thing.
Right on.
If you read Brewing Classic Styles or any of those kinds of books that are going to give you very straight to style recipes, this recipe is the base recipe is very much straight to style, and then we used. We received peaches in and pureed them, and then added them in right before the end of fermentation, so that the yeast was still slightly active,
Right,
and
so
the
it won't go
residual,
back up.
the sugar that lives in the peaches is going to wake that yeast
Right.
up. Not enough to consume all of the sugar, so that there's no peach flavor left over, but enough to dry it out just a little bit and incorporate that flavor into the beer.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that was generally my question. Like, was the alcohol spike more dependent on the peaches or just the base recipes?
Yeah, ultimately the peaches add very little to the alcohol content, but this beer should come out right around 8%.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to really remark on the look because, like you said, it's not finished.
Right.
It's incomplete. It does have a nice classic yellow color to it, though.
Right.
So yeah.
It's on the murkier side at the moment. But that murky, but that's all where the
You're
cold
saying
the cold
still waiting
conditioning
for the
comes into
solids
this.
to kind of drop down,
Right.
and once it's carbonated, it's going to separate everything so lighten up.
Yeah.
But I think it still looks delicious.
Hopefully we've got, less than 2 weeks now until Freshfest, but hopefully enough time to let it settle out. And, when you get that nice pour in your glass on August 10th, that should be a beautiful looking beer and a taste that's going to complement it as well.
So just for my own curiosity, what I might do is I already have a before picture. So at Freshfest, might have to take an after picture.
Yeah, there you go.
Just to see, what that process does to a beer like
comparison.
this. Yeah. Hop Nation exclusive. Two pictures.
More lasers.
2.0.
So I'll say it does have definitely those classic Belgian esters on it, but you really get a lot of the peach flavor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a good it's a
there.
good smell.
It's not hiding out.
No, the peaches are right there on the nose. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's got that little bit of malt sweetness, but it's not cloying. It's not. It doesn't taste like candy.
No.
And it certainly isn't. That kind of. It doesn't have that thing that makes your teeth hurt.
Right.
Kind of flavor.
Right.
It's. But it does have a nice nice clean finish. Yeah.
And that's how I get my fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking for a decadent dippa in their peach pastry, whatever nonsense, this isn't it. This is much more classic.
Like Paul was saying, it was brewed as a traditional style Belgian triple, but it has a new modern twist to it with all the peaches added on. It's very refreshing. I like it.
Yeah, definitely refreshing. That I can totally agree with. It's got that nice refreshing back end of peaches that really come through. And then the aroma is really good as well.
It's good.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
I don't know how this can
This would
get
be
better.
this would be a nice end of the summer kind of beer.
It absolutely is. End of summer, end of night, end of days. It's a way to cap it off. No, end of days beers has got to be a stout.
Barrel aged with rye.
Right, barrel aged, smoked. It's got marshmallow in it. I don't know. That's how you just end the world.
But that is good, man. I could definitely imagine. So August 10th at Freshfest.
Yes.
The sun's beating down, the clouds part, you're getting a little hot. You walk over to Enix Brewing, you try that peaches, and it's just going to refresh everything.
I hope so.
I definitely,
Yeah.
I'll walk right over.
Yeah.
That'll be my first beer. I make a lot mistakes.
Will it, Dennis?
It depends.
Or
If
will
I-
it be the table that's set up right next to you?
That is what I'm saying. Steve was with me last year, and that's what happened.
Nothing against you, Paul. It's just I know how he operates, and he's just going to look at who's next to him and then go, that one.
My wife yells at me a lot about setting stuff up, and I get hot and sweaty, and I just need a beer
It's for the greater good.
for the greater good. Top 5 for sure. I would definitely make it over there.
All right. Well, while we wait for Freshfest to come along, if you're listening on a Friday, you've got 8 days to wait. In that time, we're just going to play a quiz.
Yes.
I've got 6 questions with a 7th to determine the winner.
All right.
We're going to go around the table, round table style. It's multiple choice.
Yes.
If you can guess it, I'll give you a point. If you miss it, it'll go to the next guy, and they can take a stab at it, and it'll keep going until you get through all 3. Because at that point, it's a 50-50 chance. And at the end, I do have a final 7th question to decide everything. So, who
You
would
don't
like...
have the answers on there, right, Steve? Because I feel like I can kind of...
You can't read my handwriting. It's like the chicken scratch of
That's
a serial
also
killer.
true.
It's
It's already coded.
yeah, it's fine. I'm not worried about anybody reading my writing. So, who would like to go first? We can either start with Dennis or we can start with Paul.
Sorry, Adam. Well, no matter what, you're second.
He's in the middle. It goes around from one side of the table to the other.
House rules. Go ahead, Paul.
All right.
All right, Paul. Simple one, and just keep in mind everything's going to be beer and bowling themed because there's the bowling alley upstairs. Check it out. But your question, Paul, is what is a kegler?
Sorry, what was that?
What is a kegler?
A kegler.
A kegler.
I know the answer to this. A kegler is a...
If you can get it without the multiple choice, I'll give you 2 points.
We researched a lot of bowling terms to come up with beer names, and that was the only one that actually seemed like it might work. Oh my gosh. I guess I'm going to need the multiple choices though, because it's gonna come out though.
All right. So is it A, one who carries kegs, B, one who makes kegs, C, one who juggles kegs, or D, a bowler?
It's a bowler. I believe it's a German bowler, to be specific.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Kegler is German for bowler.
That sounds like a point and a half.
Yeah, well, I mean, he already knew.
Yeah.
he knew it was a bowling term.
Yeah.
He's getting a point.
Well, yeah, it's a point and a half, but we're going to round down.
That's not how rounding down works. Adam,
What?
quit rooting for the other team. You're on your own team.
Maybe I just want to make sure everybody has a good time.
Oh, well, that's true. You do that.
Thanks.
Doo-doo.
Well, he likes making sure people have a good time.
All right, Adam. Are you ready for your question?
Oh, sure.
If Garrett Oliver decides to come over to Enix after Freshfest, and he wants to bowl a strike for his brewery's namesake.
Brooklyn.
Let me finish the question. He decides to bowl a strike for his brewery's namesake. What pocket would he hit?
Oh, what pocket? It would be on the opposite. Okay, give me the multiple choice. Give me the multiple choice.
You can work through it if you want.
I know what it is, but I don't know what your answer is, and I don't want to get that wrong.
Yeah, stop jumping the gun.
It's Steve's world. It's Steve's world.
Would he hit the 1-2 pocket, the 1-3 pocket, the 6-10 pocket, or hit it head on?
It's not head on. It's not the 6-10. It's going to be the one. Well, that depends.
I know it depends.
Is he left-handed or right-handed?
I know.
I don't know if he's left-handed or right-handed.
That's what makes the question hard, asshole.
Damn it.
And thanks for giving Dennis the out of the other two answers are wrong.
I'll say the 1-2 pocket.
And somehow magically Adam comes through with the correct answer.
That's what he does, man. That's
Garrett Oliver is right-handed from everything that I've watched.
That's some deep research.
I like watching
right
Garrett
hand
Oliver
again,
videos. He's a really he's got that velvety voice.
That's
that you
true.
just want to hear people talk about beer, like Paul. Like
Yeah, no, I get it.
he's knowledgeable and he's nice to listen to.
And apparently a righty.
Yes. All right, Dennis, your question. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Say Woody Harrelson comes to Pittsburgh and wants to drink a beer, sharing the name of his popular 1996 film Kingpin. What soon-to-open brewery would he visit?
Give me them choices.
Platform, Sly Fox, Brewdog, or Co-Star?
Platform.
That is incorrect.
I suspected it was incorrect.
Paul, to you.
I have no idea.
I've seen this movie.
Yes. Who brews a Kingpin beer?
I'm going to guess Brewdog.
Brewdog is the correct answer. Brewdog brews a beer called Kingpin, and it is a German Pilsner.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
I didn't know if it was a movie connection with a beer. Like,
But yes, the name.
yeah, no, I get it now.
Yeah.
But before, I was like, "There's so many options." Co-star, you had a co-star.
I don't think Co-Star makes a money train beer.
Don't know
Might.
that, sir.
They might
They
soon.
might.
That one might be for free.
All right.
Dominic, take that one to heart, man. Brew it.
So after one round around the table, Paul has 2 points, Adam has 1 point, Dennis has no points.
It's not
Bagel.
physics related. I'm screwed.
Paul, your next question. What is not a brewery near a filming location in the movie Kingpin? And I'll give you the choices because that's really hard to guess, being that I have a specific brewery from a specific place.
You look like you wanted to guess, though.
Yeah.
Paul, you're in the lead. You can just guess.
It's been a while since I've seen the movie. I know it ends in Vegas, I believe, but
Well, I'll give you your choices. A, the Brewer's Cabinet. B, Brooklyn. C, Witchcraft. Or D, Stick City.
that was not next to a filming location.
Not near a filming location. Basically within the city of, yeah.
Well, I guess my guess would be Brooklyn because I thought they were out on the West Coast.
And Paul gets another point. Brooklyn is the correct answer.
Oh God, my pop culture geography is so terrible.
I gotta say, I gotta know what the where the locations of the other breweries were, what the connection is.
Yeah, so the Brewers Cabinet, we've talked about them before. They have like the really extreme experimental beer fest, and they're out of Reno, Nevada, which is where the film concludes.
Right.
Witchcraft, that's the harder one because that is in Webster, New York, and that's just the place listed on IMDb.
Oh, okay.
Who knows what they did there? They might have got some pickup shots or whatever. And then Stick City is obviously in Mars, PA, and most of the film was filmed here in Pittsburgh and surrounding areas. It was partially filmed in Rochester, PA.
Damn it, Paul.
Home to JR's Beer Warehouse.
That's right. So shout out to JR's.
That's kind of cool.
So given the era, I would have guessed it was probably filmed in Montreal.
All right, so Paul has 3 points. Adam, it's your time to shine.
Let's make it happen.
Yes. Known bowler Jeff Lebowski wants to switch it up from his usual. What beer would he most enjoy? And here come your choices.
Yes.
The Dude's Rug by Bee Nectar Meadery. The California IPA by the Dude's Brewing Company. His Royal Dudeness by Full Pint. Or Devon by Omnipolo.
Well, I know it's not the IPA.
Okay.
That's an easy one.
Okay.
Because obviously he's going to enjoy his White Russians.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, which one of the remaining ones would be close to a White Russian?
Mm-hmm.
Can I get the remaining 3 choices again?
I guess if you're just giving these things up to the other players, but yes.
That's fine. I'm just making sure everybody has a good time.
I'm next. He's not worried.
Yeah. The Dude's Rug by Bee Nectar Meadery.
Mm-hmm.
His Royal Dudeness by Full Pint.
Mm-hmm.
And Devon by Omnipolo.
I got to keep it local.
You're going to go with His Royal Dudeness by Full Pint?
Yeah.
There you go. That's the only White Russian on the list.
You did it, Adam.
I didn't have to worry about you stealing that, Dennis.
You never do.
Devon by Omnipolo, I believe, is a lager, and that is not even based off.
Yeah, I didn't know where that entered into it at all.
It's just because it was brewed for their friend Devon the Dude.
Oh, okay.
And the Dude's Rug is by a meadery.
Right.
So it's actually not beer. So you could have done the elimination that way, assuming you've never had his.
I was only half paying attention, so you know.
That's fine.
Well, I have no hope. I'm only good at physics and medieval medicine.
Okay, well, sorry about this next question. The final of the 6 questions goes like this. 10 Pin Brewing, out of Moses Lake, Washington, has a number of bowling-themed beers. Which of the following is not a bowling term out of beers that they actually brew? A, the Greek Church Goza. B, the Old Bagger Barley Wine. C, the Sandbagger Saison. Or D, the Totem IPA.
What the?
Pick a good one.
So I'm picking which one basically isn't a bowling term, right?
Mm-hmm.
A.
Greek Church Goza?
That's what the hell does that mean? That's like something from a 1973 porn film.
Wait.
The Greek Church?
Okay, well, the Greek Church is actually a bowling term.
I didn't
it refers
finish,
to a
Steve. I was
specific.
going to change it.
You said A. You
You did lock it in.
Say it.
Just because Adam said wait doesn't mean that you get to change your answer.
I thought it applied to us all.
Now, the Greek Church actually refers to a specific kind of split when you leave a number of pins up.
My wife would know this. She was a
Maybe.
bowler in high school.
Maybe. On to Paul.
Oof.
Do you need the remaining choices reread?
I would like to have them reread.
The Old Bagger Barley Wine, the Sandbagger Saison, or the Totem IPA?
Is this
I feel like there's at least one of those I definitely have heard as a bowling term. I'm going to go with the Old Bagger Barley Wine as not a bowling term.
And unfortunately, that is a bowling term.
All right.
So you lose a point.
Bagger refers to somebody who puts consecutive strikes together. Basically, anytime you get 4 or more strikes, you're hitting a 4-bagger, a 5-bagger, and so on.
Huh.
Yes.
Thought it was just an old man working at a grocery store.
All right, Adam, on to you. You have a 50-50 shot to tie with Paul.
So it's either the Sandbagger or the Totem Pole.
Yes.
Just the way you said it. It was just good.
All right. See, I can justify how a totem pole would be a thing, and I could see how a sandbagger could be a thing.
That's why these questions aren't easy.
It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. I've heard somebody be called a sandbagger at a bowling alley, so I got to go with totem pole.
Okay. And to tie it up with Paul,
Really?
Adam gets a point. Yes, totem doesn't mean anything. They just call it. They just have
I
a totem.
could picture a totem being just in a row, like a stoplight.
Right.
Right,
It could easily be,
Damn.
the 1, the 5.
You've outdone yourself this show,
Good.
Steve.
Well, it's not over because obviously we do have a tie, and I have a final question.
It's over for me.
Probably, yes. The sandbagger, though, just to go back to what that is, a sandbagger is somebody who purposely keeps their average low so their handicap adds more.
Damn.
Yes.
That's sneaky, Pete.
That's a lot of effort to put into bowling.
Effort.
Yes. So, we have one final question. Dennis, you have 0 points.
So you can wager infinite points.
Well, it's not a wager question per se.
Oh, well then I'm out.
I'm
gonna
just
go get another beer.
How about I just say it's 4 points?
There you go.
All right, that'll work.
Although I did appreciate that was a very nice way of just saying that Dennis was pointless.
Yes. I'll just
I
say
mean, it's factually accurate.
Yeah. So, we've been talking bowling, we've been talking beer. I want you to take the number of strikes that are required for a perfect 300 game and add it to the IBUs in a Fulton 300 beer.
Oh man.
You can go over, but closest is the winner.
I have my number.
I'm going to let Dennis go first because he's behind.
I have no idea how many IBUs are in a Fulton 300.
Well, you should because it's an amazing beer.
I still haven't had it, Steve.
Vintage Estates. Check it out, yo.
Oh man. 97. Because if Steve loves it, I mean, it's
Okay.
a little hoppy.
Yeah. Okay. Adam.
I'm going to say 112.
All right. 112. And Paul.
I actually did not plan to do it this way, but I'm going to say 113.
Ooh. So, the correct answer is there are 12 strikes in a perfect 300 game, and there are 74 IBUs in a Fulton 300.
So what does that mean, ladies and
totaling
gentlemen?
up for a grand total of 86. Dennis is closest off by 11.
And that's where science comes in.
You sandbagging son of a bitch.
That's a good use. I definitely kept my average low.
Yes, definitely.
So I could be handicapped.
Definitely a good use. You come out with one ahead of everybody else rather than somebody getting 7 points. You sandbagged the league.
You sandbagging son of a bitch.
Unfortunately, Paul, I'm sorry. We have no prize for you because you didn't win.
I just have an unlimited, never-ending amount of beer to console myself with.
And
I know.
Quint, good thing you brought that up because that is the first place winner.
But yeah, so that was the game. Everybody did a good job.
were good
Everybody
questions.
had fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yes, welcome
I think
to welcome to
I
the
learned
quiz
more
ball.
about bowling today than last year.
I used the bowling league. I have certain knowledge, but the PBA website also has knowledge as well.
Bottom line, if somebody is beating you, just call him a sandbagging son of a bitch. All will be good.
I feel like that can fit
take
in
'em to
any
the
walk of
Greek
life. You can yell that out the window if someone cuts you off in traffic. You sandbagging son of a bitch. Like, what?
So, coming back to the what was the official name on this Peaches Tripel?
We will be calling it Dreamz Peche.
Dreams
Dreams
of Peaches. Yes. Coming back to this, I am thoroughly enjoying it.
As am I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this as a final product.
Right. Yeah. Even though it's a whip, I still want to obviously get it when it's finished. I want to see the nice clear colors, and I want to have a little bit of that carbonation in there.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's flavorful. It's big. It has all the fruity esters that you expect out of a Belgian anyway. So, I mean, it's well on its way.
Yeah. It's going to be a good beer. It's already a good beer.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a good
really
beer.
solid beer.
Yeah.
I definitely love it. I'm upset it's gone. Now it's only a thing of dreams.
No.
Well, I'm going to make a great father.
That's why you got to give Dennis time. He'll work that out. So, Dennis, you have so much to say. Why don't you start with the podium?
This one's tough, Steve. Traditionally,
Yes.
It's so easy for us to rank them, but I've actually thoroughly enjoyed every single beer that we had here. So if I had to rank them, going in third place in the bronze category, oh, God, this is tough. I would say the Kolsch. And it breaks my heart to do it because I love Kolsch's and I love that beer. It was a very well done beer. I really enjoyed it. In silver, I'm going to give it to, it's hard. I'm going to give it to Dreamz the Peche. It was a very good Belgian forward beer with a lot of peaches on the nose, peaches on the back end, really carried it through. I enjoyed it. But that red IPA, what was it, the Mad IPA?
MadRed.
MadRed. Yeah. Definitely really enjoyed that. The caramel, toasted caramel notes up front, carried through by that old school taste of an IPA that gave me, it was just nostalgic. I think that beer just connected with me more on an emotional level. Maybe I actually like the Kolsch more, but that MadRed played mind games with me, so that's going to slide into the gold category for me.
I'm pretty much just going to echo what Dennis said. It's the same for me. I will note that Kolsch isn't my favorite style, so that's kind of why it was easier for me to put these other beers above it. But this is probably my favorite Kolsch I've ever had. I swear I've been drinking shit Kolsch this entire time. I don't know what happened. But yeah, otherwise, everything kind of the same as Dennis, and a special note for the MadRed IPA in gold is, it is that throwback style that I've been beating a drum for. So, yeah, that's my deal. Adam?
Right on. So I will not be agreeing with you two.
Yeah, what a shocker.
And I am actually going to be putting the MadRed IPA in the bronze medal position, not because it's a bad beer, simply because I thought that the other two were just a little bit better. The MadRed was a good beer. I like what it's about. Like I said, it kind of had that spiced taste to it. It also has that hoppiness, but it also brings that malt, like we talked about. It has that balance. It is a well-balanced beer, and that's what I like about it. Unfortunately for it, the other two beers, like I said, just a little bit better to my personal taste. And that's where things get a little more interesting because I'm not sure where to put this Belgian triple because it's not done yet. And the Kolsch is done. The Kolsch is a final product, so it's a little bit interesting trying to compare a finished product with a non-finished product. However, with that being said, I think I'm gonna put the gold in put the Kolsch in a very, very strong second. That's a great beer. That is the type of beer that you can bring to almost, any occasion. It'll be accepted. Anybody will drink it. Anybody who even thinks about beer will like that beer. But I have to put that Belgian triple, that Peche's Belgian triple, in the gold medal position simply because I think when it's done, I think it's going to be better. I think it's going to be a hit. I think Freshfest is going to really enjoy it. I don't think you're going to be coming back with anything left in the kegs when you're done at the end of the night. I like where that beer is going, and I think it's going to be good. And due to speculation, I think that's going in the gold medal position.
Yeah. Adam's playing the stock market.
He's going real bull over here, isn't he?
Bullish on the peaches.
Bullish on the peaches. Great projection, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, Paul. Well, now's our favorite time. Anytime we go on location to a brewery, we love to take the brewer and put them on the spot and make them rank their babies.
Which child do you love more?
So, of the three beers that we had tonight, which would you put in bronze, silver, and gold?
I'm probably going to have to agree with y'all too, because I think I can kind of start from the top and kind of work the way down. I think MadRed is just an excellent beer. I think MadRed to me is, like I said, it's the style of beer that made me really appreciate craft beer in general, and I think MadRed exemplifies that perfectly. I think the triple is going to be just one of these beers that we're going to be so happy when it's around, and we're going to be so sad when it's gone. And I'm not sure if this is a beer we'll replicate as often as other beers. The Kolsch is a solid beer, and the bronze medal is a solid place to be. Not to discount the beer in any way, shape, or form, but just if I have to sit here and actually rank them, I'm going to have to say MadRed is definitely my favorite, and then the Tripel after that, and Kolsch below.
Right on. That was actually pretty painless for Paul. Like, we get some real hemming and hawing sometimes. But with that said, why don't you just continue on? Tell us everything that where you can find Enix, online, like social media, special events coming up. Obviously Freshfest on August 10th. But where else can we find Enix?
We are at Enix.Beer. We have gone past the words of .com. This is 2019. It's the future. So you just go straight to the source. Enix.Beer that's our main website. So our calendar of events, our menu, everything you're gonna need to know is directly there. Facebook, of course, is our most updated source. So day by day we'll post about food specials, drink specials. Anything that's happening immediately, certainly Instagram as well. We are on 337 East 8th Street in Homestead. So you come across the Grays Bridge, you take a left, and we're right next to the Dollar General. There is parking lots in front, behind, to the side, free on the weekends, free after 4 o'clock. We have a happy hour that goes on weekdays. You can basically get discounted pints, discounted flatbreads. You can sit outside on the patio. After 4 o'clock, there is no direct sunlight on the patio. It's a nice, comfortable place to hang out, and a good place to bring your dog and have some beers.
On the patio.
On the patio. Yes, definitely check out our calendar event, our calendar of musical events. The bowling alley is open predominantly on weekends right now. We are still looking for someone who wants to manage the bowling alley. Trying to find someone who wants to come out and turn that place into its own little bar unto itself, and you get to work in a bowling alley. I mean, it sounds like the coolest job in the world to all of us. We just want to find the right person who wants to really take that on, and then the bowling alley can become a much bigger part of our daily lives here. But we have food event. We're open Wednesday through Sunday. We do brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. But there's always stuff going on here. So check out the website, check out Facebook, and you can see everything that's going on any given week.
And get the charcuterie board.
All right. Dennis?
Yeah, so as you guys know, you can find us firsthitbrewbox.com, all of our social media handles. Get us on the Twitters, the Pinterest, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, the Facebooks, First Hit Brewbox. Our next event is going to be the day after you hear this, because you should be listening to this on Friday.
Damn right.
As you should. So that very next day, Saturday, you'll catch us at North Country Brewing up around the Slippery Rock area for their beer fest, the little mini beer fest, the 13th annual beer fest that they've put on out there. So we were invited to come down. We're going to hang out with our buddy Meg out there. So go on down, check us out there. And then obviously Fresh Fest, which Steve will be with me at Fresh Fest.
Yes, I'll be helping. I'll be around.
I think that was me also asking because I didn't know.
Right.
I've told you 3 fucking times that I will come and help you at Freshfest.
Now you know how my wife feels. I forget a lot of things.
I've told you 3 times I'm going to be there because then I get to run and get beer for your wife, which means I get to get beer for me.
Everybody wins.
And you keep her company as I'm gone.
As Dennis wanders around and schmoozes and sells his wares.
It's business to
My goods and wares.
His businesses. But yes, I'll be at Freshfest. And in the meantime, though, if you want to find us on social media, all you have to do is search Hop Nation USA, and that'll get you Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to listen to brand new episodes of the Hop Nation USA podcast every Friday, as you should, then search Hop Nation USA on your favorite podcatcher like Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Laughable, Player FM, and everything else, because I think we're on everything else. If I'm missing something, please tell me. I'll put it on there. But if you're on any of those platforms, leave us a 5-star review because
we are a 6-star show, but they only let us use 5.
That's a shame.
Yeah. And that's a bigger crime than Paul not locking us in here for the evening so we can just drink everything.
The night's not over yet, Steve.
But I just want to thank Paul once again and everybody here at Enix Brewing who's allowed us to come in and, sample your wares, try your beer, talk about Freshfest with you, learn kind of the history, learn your history and all that.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you. And we will be back.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right.
For
See you,
sure.
Bug Booze.
Bye-bye. See you next week.